Hey guys, this is Calypso. She is our Nerite racer snail, and we've had her in our 5-gallon tank for a little bit over a year. And she's actually the first snail that I've been able to successfully keep healthy. So I just wanted to share a few tips in case you're thinking about getting a freshwater snail. She lives with our beta, and they get along pretty well. That's Valentino right there, our beta. So it's actually very, very simple to keep these snails. It's a lot simpler than you probably think. So what I do is when I change the tank, the first thing that I do after I, add the water and set the tank up is I would say maybe about 10 crystals of sea salt to the water, and this makes the water just slightly saline, not really brackish, but it's slightly saline, so it doesn't really affect the beta. The beta is okay with that. I would say any more salt than that might be an issue for the beta, but it keeps that little bit of salt is so necessary for the Nerite snails. They are not a freshwater snail. They will die in completely fresh water, which unfortunately I learned from my last snail, my first snail. So you always want to make sure that you have a trace amount of salt in the water, whether it's you're redoing the tank water, or even if you're doing a partial water change. When I do my partial water changes, I add maybe about like 5 to 6 crystals of salt, if I'm changing half the tank water, and that seems to keep her happy. The other thing that I do is when I change the tank, we have crushed coral. If you notice, it's in with our rocks, and I also keep a seashell in the tank, and these are very important to keep the levels of calcium in the water. Nerites and all snails need to have, all aquatic snails, they need to have calcium to feed on, and this helps to keep their shells healthy. So I add the crushed coral to the tank. This also keeps our pH balanced because we tend to have I'm trying to remember how it goes. We tend to have a low pH. So when you add crushed coral, it actually raises the pH. So our pH is nice and perfect at 7. And the snail really likes that. That's good for the beta too. And then I also have those vacation feeders, the small vacation feeders that come in a pack. And I'll just take a knife and chop off a piece about the size of an aspirin, because we have a 5-gallon. It's a smaller tank. So I only need maybe a piece of it, and I put that in anytime I do a water change. And Calypso will eat that. She will feed on that. And that's her calcium. Snails need algae and calcium. So we also have algae wafers. I add 1 algae wafer each time I do a tank change, because the tank does get some natural sunlight from our window, so it does. And I also have natural plants and moss balls in the I have two moss balls in the tank, so the tank does get a natural amount of algae. Plus, with her being the only snail, she's the only snail that we keep, she gets enough algae that way. So yeah, so if you guys are thinking about getting a snail, or if you already have one, I really enjoy the Nerite racer snail, because they move quite quickly and they do a really phenomenal job of keeping the tank clean. As you guys can see, the rocks really have no issues with algae. since we've been keeping her. And and plus they're really they're great with the beta because they're not they're very peaceful creatures that and our betas seem to not really bother them too much, or not really bother her too much. So I hope this video was helpful, and if you do decide to get a snail, just make sure you keep up with your water changes, because they're very sensitive to to any to the water being too dirty. I used to do very regular checks to the water and everything, and haven't really had to do that too much lately because we kind of have it down to a balance. But yeah, enjoy your tanks.